The camera flash blinded Ethan Caldwell as he stepped out of the sleek black SUV. Paparazzi swarming like vultures around a fresh kill. Los Angeles pulsed around him. A city of dreams and deals, where his name heir to the Caldwell media empire meant both power and prison. At 29, Ethan's life was a scripted performance. Every smile calculated. Every scandal orchestrated. Tonight, though, the script was about to change. He ducked into a dimly lit cafe. The kind of place where overpriced lattes came with a side of anonymity. The air smelled of roasted coffee and ambition. But Ethan's focus was singular, the man sitting at a corner table. His broad shoulders hunched over a black coffee. Untouched. Lucas Reed, 30. A former military trainer turned private security consultant. Looked like he'd walked out of a war zone and into Ethan's chaos. His jaw was set. Eyes sharp. The kind of man who could break you or save you with a single glance. Ethan slid into the chair across from him, heart pounding in a way that no red carpet ever caused. "You're late," Lucas said, voice low, a gravelly edge that sent a shiver down Ethan's spine. "I'm here now," Ethan replied, flashing his trademark grin, the one that had charmed directors and disarmed critics. But Lucas didn't flinch, didn't fall for the act. That was the first thing Ethan noticed about him Lucas saw through the facade. The deal was simple, or so Ethan's father, Victor Caldwell, had made it sound. The Caldwell empire was bleeding money, stock prices plummeting after a string of bad investments. Ethan, the reckless heir with a trail of tabloid scandals, parties, flings, a leaked photo with a male model that had nearly cost him everything needed to clean up his image. A marriage, Victor declared, would do it. A stable, respectable union to signal maturity to the board and the public. Lucas, drowning in debt from his late father's medical bills, needed cash. 1 year. A fake marriage. A quiet divorce. $5 million for Lucas. Redemption for Ethan. "You sure about this?" Lucas asked, leaning back, his calloused fingers tapping the table. His eyes, green and piercing, held Ethan's gaze, searching for cracks. "You don't even know me." Ethan laughed, a little too loud, masking the nerves twisting his gut. "I know you're broke, and I know you're good at following orders. That's enough." Lucas's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. "This isn't a game, Caldwell. You're asking me to lie to the world, to my family. And I'm asking you to save mine." Ethan shot back, voice softer now, almost pleading. He leaned forward, close enough to catch the faint scent of cedar on Lucas's skin. 1 year. We play the part. Cash the checks. Walk away. No feelings. No mess. Lucas stared at him, unreadable, then nodded once. "Fine. But I don't do half measures. If we're in, we're in." Ethan extended his hand, expecting a quick shake. Instead, Lucas's grip was firm, lingering a second too long, his thumb brushing Ethan's knuckles. The contact sent a jolt through him, unexpected and dangerous. He pulled back, heart racing, and forced a smirk. "Deal." The next week was a whirlwind. Lawyers drafted contracts. Publicists spun the story. Hollywood's bad boy finds love with a war hero. The engagement announcement hit the tabloids like a grenade, complete with staged photos of Ethan and Lucas at a charity gala, their smiles convincing enough to fool the world. Ethan played his role to perfection, all charm and witty one-liners, while Lucas stood beside him, stoic but magnetic, his presence grounding Ethan in a way he hadn't expected. Their first public kiss, choreographed for a magazine shoot, was supposed to be clinical. A peck, nothing more. But when Lucas's lips brushed his, firm and warm, Ethan's breath caught. He leaned in, instinct overriding script. And for a moment, the cameras didn't exist. Lucas pulled back first, eyes dark, and muttered, "Stick to the plan. Caldwell." Ethan couldn't sleep that night. He lay in his sprawling Hollywood Hills mansion, replaying that kiss, the way Lucas's hand had steadied him. It was fake. All of it. So why did it feel so real? By the time their wedding day arrived, a lavish affair at a Malibu estate. With 500 guests and a string quartet, Ethan was unraveling. He stood at the altar, impeccable in a tailored tux, but his hands shook as Lucas walked down the aisle. The man looked like a soldier marching into battle. Not a groom. But there was something in his eyes. A flicker of softness that Ethan couldn't unsee. "Do you, Ethan Caldwell, take Lucas Reed to be your lawfully wedded husband?" the officiant asked. Ethan's throat tightened. He was supposed to say "I do" with confidence, like he'd rehearsed. Instead, he hesitated, caught in Lucas's gaze, those green eyes pulling him under like a riptide. "I do," he said finally, voice barely above a whisper. Lucas's vow was steady, resolute. "I do." The crowd cheered. Cameras flashed. But Ethan barely noticed. Lucas's hand found his, grounding him again. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt something he couldn't name. Not yet. They moved into a shared penthouse in downtown L.A. A sleek prison of glass and steel where they could keep up appearances. Ethan expected awkward silences, maybe resentment. Instead, Lucas cooked breakfast every morning, pancakes. Of all things, fluffy and perfect. "You're gonna get fat," Lucas teased one morning, tossing a pancake onto Ethan's plate. "You're gonna have to train me then," Ethan shot back, grinning. And Lucas's laugh, rare, deep, unguarded, hit him like a punch. Days turned into weeks. They fell into a rhythm, learning each other's habits. Lucas was up at dawn, running 5 miles before Ethan even stirred. Ethan stayed up late, scrolling through scripts or dodging calls from his father. But at night, when the city quieted, they'd sit on the balcony, sharing beers and stories. Lucas talked about his tours in Afghanistan, the weight of loss, the brother he'd buried. Ethan confessed about the pressure of his name, the loneliness behind the fame. They were supposed to be strangers, but the lines blurred. One night, after too many beers, Ethan asked, "You ever been in love?" Lucas paused, bottle halfway to his lips. "Once. Didn't end well." Ethan waited, but Lucas didn't elaborate. "What about you?" Lucas asked, turning the question back. Ethan shrugged, staring at the city lights. "I thought I was. Turns out, it was just noise." Lucas looked at him, really looked, and Ethan felt exposed. "Raw. You deserve more than noise," Lucas said quietly, and Ethan's heart stuttered. He didn't know it yet, but he was already falling. The penthouse was too quiet some nights, the kind of silence that pressed against Ethan's chest like a weight. He'd grown used to Lucas's presence, the clink of his coffee mug, the soft tread of his boots, the way he'd hum off-key while chopping vegetables. It was unsettling. How quickly this stranger had become a fixture. How Ethan's pulse quickened when Lucas walked into a room. Tonight, though, Lucas was late. Ethan paced the living room, glancing at his phone. No texts. No calls. The deal had been clear: keep up appearances, attend events together, smile for the cameras. But Lucas was supposed to be home by now, and the absence gnawed at Ethan. He told himself it was logistics, nothing more. They had a charity dinner tomorrow, and Lucas needed to be briefed. That was all. When the door finally opened at 11 p.m., Lucas stepped in, His jacket dusted with rain. His face was drawn, eyes shadowed in a way Ethan hadn't seen before. "Where the hell were you?" Ethan asked, sharper than he meant. Lucas didn't flinch. "Had a job. Security consult. Ran long." He dropped his bag by the door, avoiding Ethan's gaze. "Could have texted," Ethan muttered, hating how petulant he sounded. He wasn't supposed to care this much. It was a deal, a transaction. But the sight of Lucas, weary and distant, twisted something inside him. "I'm here now," Lucas said, echoing Ethan's words from their first meeting. He moved to the kitchen, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "You good?" Ethan wasn't. He was a mess of nerves and questions. But he swallowed them. "Yeah. Fine. Big day tomorrow." The charity dinner was a high-stakes performance, hosted by one of Victor Caldwell's media conglomerates. Ethan and Lucas arrived arm in arm. Ethan in a charcoal suit that cost more than most people's rent. Lucas in a navy blazer that hugged his frame perfectly. The room buzzed with power players, producers, politicians, influencers, eyes on the newlyweds. Ethan played his part, all charm and easy laughter. But Lucas was quieter than usual. His smiles tight, his hands stiff in Ethan's. "You okay?" Ethan whispered as they posed for photos, their shoulders brushing. Lucas's jaw ticked. "Crowds like this, not my thing." Ethan squeezed his hand, a reflex he didn't question. "Just follow my lead." But Lucas didn't. Halfway through the night, a reporter cornered them, her smile sharp as a blade. "Lucas, any truth to the rumors that this marriage is just a publicity stunt?" The room seemed to still. Ethan opened his mouth, ready with a rehearsed deflection. But Lucas spoke first. "You think I'd marry someone like Ethan for a stunt?" His voice was steady, but there was an edge, a challenge. "He's worth more than that." Ethan's breath caught. The words weren't part of the script. The reporter blinked, thrown, and Ethan seized the moment, laughing it off, steering Lucas away. But his heart was pounding, Lucas's words echoing in his head. "He's worth more than that." Later, in the car, Ethan couldn't hold it in. "What was that back there?" "You went off script." Lucas stared out the window, city lights streaking across his face. "Didn't like her tone. Like you're some trophy to be questioned." Ethan's chest tightened. "You didn't have to say that." "I meant it," Lucas said, turning to meet his gaze. The intensity in his eyes made Ethan's mouth go dry. For a moment, neither spoke. The air between them charged, fragile. The next few weeks were a tightrope walk. Publicly, they were the perfect couple, attending premieres, kissing for cameras, their chemistry undeniable. Privately, though, the boundaries blurred. Lucas's touches lingered, a hand on Ethan's back, a brush of fingers when passing a coffee mug. Ethan caught himself watching Lucas, memorizing the way his lips curved when he laughed, the scar above his eyebrow from a training accident. He told himself it was curiosity, nothing more. But at night, alone in his room, he couldn't stop imagining what it would be like to cross the line. One evening, after a long day of interviews, they ended up on the balcony again, the city sprawling below. Lucas was quieter than usual, his fingers tracing the rim of his beer bottle. "You ever think about what happens after?" he asked suddenly. "After what?" Ethan said, though he knew. "After the year's up. When we end this." Ethan's stomach dropped. He hadn't let himself think about it. Not really. The idea of Lucas walking away, of this whatever it was ending, felt like losing something vital. "We go back to our lives," he said, voice hollow. "You get your money. I get my freedom." Lucas nodded. but his eyes were distant. Right. Ethan wanted to say more, to ask what Lucas was thinking, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he changed the subject. Tell me about your brother. Lucas's face softened, then tightened. Jake. He was everything. Funny. Stubborn. Always getting into trouble. Died in a car accident 2 years ago. He paused, swallowing hard. I couldn't save him. Ethan reached out, his hand covering Lucas's on the railing. I'm sorry. Lucas didn't pull away. You remind me of him sometimes. The way you hide behind that smile. Ethan's throat burned. He wanted to argue, to deflect, but Lucas's gaze held him, raw and unguarded. Before he could stop himself, Ethan leaned in, his lips brushing Lucas's. It was soft, tentative, nothing like the staged kisses for the cameras. Lucas froze, then kissed him back, slow and deep, his hand sliding to Ethan's neck. When they pulled apart, Ethan's heart was racing. That wasn't part of the deal. He whispered, half joking, half terrified. Lucas's eyes searched his. A storm of emotions Ethan couldn't name. No, he said quietly. It wasn't. The kiss changed everything. Ethan woke the next morning with the memory of Lucas's lips burning in his mind. The taste of him lingering like a secret he couldn't shake. He found Lucas in the kitchen, flipping pancakes as if nothing had happened. But the air between them crackled, charged with unspoken questions. Morning, Lucas said, not looking up. His voice was steady, but his shoulders were tense, like he was bracing for a fight. Morning, Ethan echoed, sliding onto a stool. He wanted to ask about the kiss, to dissect it, but the words felt too heavy. Instead, he grabbed a pancake, forcing a grin. You're gonna make me fat for real. Lucas snorted, a small smile breaking through. I'll whip you into shape. Hollywood. The nickname, once teasing, now felt intimate. A thread tying them together. Ethan clung to it, even as doubt gnawed at him. Was the kiss a mistake? A moment of weakness? Or was it something more? Something neither of them was ready to name. Their public life marched on. A relentless parade of appearances and interviews. Ethan leaned into the role of doting husband, his arm around Lucas's waist, his smiles brighter than ever. But now, every touch felt like a risk, every glance a confession. Lucas played his part too, but Ethan caught the way his eyes lingered, the way his fingers tightened when they held hands. The line between performance and reality was dissolving, and Ethan wasn't sure he wanted to stop it. One afternoon, they were at a studio lot, filming a promotional video for a Caldwell charity. Ethan was in his element, charming the crew, while Lucas stood off to the side, arms crossed, watching. During a break, Ethan wandered over, tossing him a bottle of water. You look like you're plotting an escape. Lucas caught the bottle, his lips twitching. Not yet. You're too much trouble to leave unsupervised. Ethan laughed, but his heart wasn't in it. He wanted to ask about the kiss, about what it meant. But before he could, a producer called him back. As he walked away, he felt Lucas's gaze on his back, heavy and unyielding. That night, they were invited to a private dinner at Victor Caldwell's mansion. Ethan dreaded if his father had a way of turning every moment into a power play. The dining room was all crystal chandeliers and cold formality. Victor at the head of the table, his eyes sharp as he assessed them. You two are convincing, he said, cutting into his steak. The board's happy. Stock's up. Ethan forced a smile. Glad we're useful. Victor's gaze shifted to Lucas. You're holding up your end. Read. But don't get comfortable. This is a means to an end. Lucas's fork paused. his expression unreadable. "I know my role, sir." Ethan's stomach twisted. He hated how Victor reduced everything to transactions. How he spoke to Lucas like a hired hand. Under the table, he reached for Lucas's hand, squeezing it. Lucas didn't pull away, his thumb brushing Ethan's in a silent reassurance. After dinner, they escaped to the garden, the night air cool against Ethan's skin. He lit a cigarette, a habit he'd picked up in his wilder days, and offered one to Lucas. Lucas shook his head, leaning against a stone pillar. "Your dad's a piece of work." Ethan exhaled a plume of smoke. "He's a shark. Always has been." Lucas studied him, his eyes softening. "You're not like him." The words hit harder than Ethan expected. He dropped the cigarette, grinding it under his heel. "I don't know what I am anymore," he admitted, voice raw. "This whole thing, it's messing with my head." Lucas stepped closer, close enough that Ethan could feel the heat of him. "You're more than what he wants you to be," he said. "More than what anyone wants you to be." Ethan's breath hitched. He wanted to kiss Lucas again, to lose himself in the certainty of his touch. But fear stopped him. What if this was just the deal talking? What if Lucas was playing a part, too? Before he could decide, Lucas's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face darkening. "I gotta go," he said abruptly, stepping back. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked. But Lucas was already moving, his jaw tight. "Family stuff. I'll see you at home." Ethan watched him go, a hollow ache settling in his chest. He didn't know what Lucas was running from, but he knew one thing. He wasn't ready to let him go. The next day, Lucas was gone before Ethan woke. A note on the counter read, "Back tonight. Don't burn the place down." Ethan crumpled it, frustration simmering. Lucas was pulling away, and Ethan didn't know how to stop it. He threw himself into work, reading scripts, meeting with producers, anything to keep his mind off Lucas. But every quiet moment brought him back to that kiss, to the way Lucas had looked at him in the garden. By evening, he was restless, pacing the penthouse, when his phone rang. It was his publicist, frantic. "Ethan, you need to see this." She sent him a link to a gossip site. The headline screamed, "Hollywood heir's husband caught in late-night meeting with mystery man." Below was a grainy photo of Lucas in a dimly lit bar, sitting close to a man Ethan didn't recognize, their heads bent together. Ethan's heart sank. He told himself it was nothing, that Lucas had a life outside their deal. But the jealousy, sharp and unfamiliar, cut through him. When Lucas walked through the door an hour later, Ethan was waiting, the article open on his phone. "Care to explain?" Ethan asked, holding up the screen. Lucas's eyes flickered with something guilt. Defiance. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Ethan snapped, his voice breaking. "Because it looks like you're playing me." Lucas stepped closer, his voice low, urgent. "I'm not playing you, Ethan. That was my cousin. He's in trouble. Needed help. I didn't tell you because it's not your burden." Ethan wanted to believe him, but doubt clung like damp air. "Why do I feel like I'm the only one in too deep here?" Lucas's expression softened, and for a moment, he looked like he might reach out. But he didn't. "You're not," he said quietly. "But it's complicated." Ethan turned away, his throat tight. He didn't know how to navigate this, how to separate the deal from the desire, the performance from the truth. All he knew was that Lucas was slipping through his fingers, and he was powerless to stop it. Ethan didn't sleep that night. The penthouse felt too big, too empty, with Lucas's absence echoing in every corner. He kept replaying their argument, the way Lucas's voice had softened when he said, You're not. Not what? Not alone in this. Not the only one falling. Ethan wanted to believe it. But trust was a fragile thing. And his was fraying. By morning, Lucas was back, his face etched with exhaustion. He didn't mention the article. And Ethan didn't bring it up. Instead, they moved through their routine like actors in a play. Polite but distant. Breakfast was silent. The pancakes untouched. Ethan hated it. The way the air between them had thickened, heavy with things unsaid. They had a photo shoot that afternoon. A spread for a lifestyle magazine. The set was a sunlit rooftop. All clean lines and curated props, a perfect backdrop for their perfect lie. Ethan slipped into his role, flashing smiles, tilting his head just so for the camera. Lucas was stiffer, his touches mechanical, his eyes avoiding Ethan's. The photographer, oblivious, kept shouting, "More passion. Boys. Sell it." Ethan leaned in, his lips brushing Lucas's ear. A stage gesture for the shot. "You're killing me here," he whispered, half joking, half pleading. Lucas's hand tightened on his waist, just for a second, before he pulled back. "Not the place. Caldwell," he muttered, but his voice was strained, like he was fighting himself. The shoot dragged on, and by the time it ended, Ethan's nerves were raw. He cornered Lucas in the dressing room, away from the crew. "We need to talk." Lucas sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I told you. It was my cousin. He's got debts. Bad ones. I'm trying to help him out." "Then why shut me out?" Ethan demanded, stepping closer. "I'm your husband. Lucas. Fake or not. I'm in this with you." Lucas's eyes flickered, something raw breaking through. "You don't get it. Ethan. This isn't your world. It's messy. Ugly. I don't want you dragged into it." "Maybe I want to be," Ethan said, voice low, fierce. He was close enough to feel Lucas's breath, to see the conflict in his eyes. "Maybe I want you." The words hung between them, heavy and dangerous. Lucas's jaw clenched, and for a moment, Ethan thought he'd walk away. But then Lucas grabbed him, pulling him into a kiss that was all heat and desperation. Nothing like the careful touches of before. Ethan kissed him back, hands fisting in Lucas's shirt, the world narrowing to this moment. This man. When they broke apart, gasping, Lucas's forehead pressed against Ethan's. "This is a bad idea," he whispered, but his hands didn't let go. "Then why does it feel so right?" Ethan asked, his voice trembling. Lucas didn't answer, but he didn't pull away either. They stood there, tangled in each other, until a knock on the door jolted them apart. 5 minutes. The assistant called. They didn't talk about it on the way home, but the kiss lingered. A promise or a warning Ethan couldn't decipher. Over the next few days, they danced around it, their interactions laced with a new intensity. Lucas's touches were no longer just for show. Ethan's jokes held an edge of longing. They were playing with fire, and Ethan was ready to burn. One evening, Lucas got a call that made his face go pale. He grabbed his keys, muttering about his cousin again, and was out the door before Ethan could ask. Frustrated, Ethan did something reckless, followed him. He tailed Lucas's truck through L.A.'s labyrinth of streets, ending at a rundown bar in a part of town Ethan had never seen. Through the window, he saw Lucas arguing with a man who looked like him. Same broad shoulders, same sharp jaw. The cousin, Ethan realized, relief mixing with guilt for doubting him. But then he saw something else, a third man, older, with a scar across his cheek, handing Lucas an envelope. Lucas's face was grim as he took it, and Ethan's stomach twisted. Whatever this was, it wasn't just family drama. He slipped away before Lucas could spot him, his mind racing. Back at the penthouse, Ethan waited, pretending to read a script when Lucas returned. "Everything okay?" he asked, keeping his tone light. Lucas hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, just sorting things out." Ethan wanted to push, to demand the truth, but the look in Lucas's eyes stopped him. There was fear there, buried deep, and Ethan realized he wasn't the only one in too deep. Instead, he stood, crossing the room to stand in front of Lucas. "Whatever it is, you don't have to do it alone." Lucas's breath hitched, and for a moment, Ethan thought he'd open up. But then Lucas stepped back, his walls slamming back into place. "You don't know what you're asking," he said, voice rough, before disappearing into his room. The next week was torture. Lucas was distant, disappearing for hours at a time, coming back with shadows under his eyes. Ethan tried to focus on work, but his mind was on Lucas, on the envelope, on the kiss that had cracked open something he couldn't close. He started digging, using his connections to pull strings. A private investigator. A favor called in, and soon he had a name, Marcus Kane, the man with the scar, a low-level loan shark with a reputation for violence. Ethan's blood ran cold. Lucas wasn't just helping his cousin, was tangled in something dangerous. And Ethan, for all his wealth and charm, had no idea how to protect him. Ethan couldn't let it go. The name Marcus Kane haunted him, a shadow over every moment he spent with Lucas. He saw the strain in Lucas's face, the way his hands shook when he thought Ethan wasn't looking. Whatever deal Lucas had made with Kane, it was eating him alive, and Ethan refused to stand by and watch. He confronted Lucas one night, cornering him in the kitchen after another late return. Lucas was pouring coffee, his movements slow, deliberate, like he was holding himself together by sheer will. "We need to talk," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the storm in his chest. Lucas didn't look up. "Not now, Ethan." "Yes, now." Ethan stepped closer, blocking his path. "I know about Marcus Kane." Lucas froze, his hand tightening around the mug. For a moment, Ethan thought he'd break it. "You've been spying on me." Lucas's voice was low, dangerous, but there was hurt there, too. "I followed you," Ethan admitted, unflinching. "I was worried, and I was right to be. Kane's bad news." "Lucas, what the hell are you doing with him?" Lucas set the mug down, hard. "You don't get to play hero, Ethan. This isn't your world." "Then let me in," Ethan snapped, his frustration boiling over. "You're shutting me out. And I'm—" He stopped, the words catching in his throat. "I'm falling for you." He couldn't say it. Not yet. But it hung between them, unspoken but heavy. Lucas's eyes softened, just for a second, before he turned away. "My cousin owes Kane money. A lot. I'm trying to fix it." "By doing what?" "Getting yourself killed." Ethan grabbed his arm, forcing Lucas to face him. "Let me help. I have money. Connections." "No." Lucas's voice was sharp, cutting through Ethan's plea. "I'm not dragging you into this. Kane's dangerous. And you're—" He trailed off, his gaze dropping to Ethan's hand on his arm. "I'm what?" Ethan pressed, stepping closer, his voice softening. "Tell me." Lucas's jaw clenched, his eyes searching Ethan's face. "You're too important," he said finally, barely above a whisper. "I can't lose you." The confession hit Ethan like a tidal wave. He didn't think, just acted, closing the distance between them and kissing Lucas with everything he had: fear, longing, desperation. Lucas kissed him back, fierce and unyielding, his hands gripping Ethan's shoulders like he was afraid to let go. When they pulled apart, Ethan's heart was pounding, his voice unsteady. "You're not losing me, but you need to trust me." Lucas hesitated, then nodded, his walls cracking just enough to let Ethan in. "Okay," he said, "but we do this my way." They sat up all night. Lucas laying it out. His cousin, Tommy, had borrowed 50 grand from Kane to cover gambling debts. When he couldn't pay, Kane's threats turned violent. Lucas had been working odd jobs, funneling every cent to Kane. But it wasn't enough. The envelope Ethan saw was a payment, but Kane was raising the interest, tightening the noose. "I can pay him off," Ethan said, his mind racing. "All of it." Lucas shook his head. "Kane doesn't just want money. He wants control. If you pay, he'll come after you next." "Then we outsmart him," Ethan said, determination hardening his voice. "We're good at playing parts. Right. Let's play him." Lucas's lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. "You're crazy. Hollywood." "Crazy about you," Ethan shot back, the words slipping out before he could stop them. Lucas's eyes widened, but he didn't pull away, and that was enough for now. They devised a plan, risky but calculated. Ethan would use his connections to leak a story to the press, framing Kane as a predator targeting vulnerable families. The bad publicity would pressure Kane to back off, giving Lucas and Tommy a chance to settle the debt without violence. It was a gamble, but Ethan was all in. The next day, Ethan called in every favor he had: journalists, bloggers, even a producer with a knack for viral stories. By evening, Kane's name was trending, his shady deals exposed in a flurry of articles. Ethan watched the chaos unfold from the penthouse, his phone buzzing with updates. Lucas sat beside him, tense but quiet, his hand resting on Ethan's knee. "This could backfire," Lucas said, his voice low. "Kane's not the type to go quietly." "Then we don't either," Ethan replied, turning to meet his gaze. "We're in this together." Lucas's hand tightened, and for the first time, Ethan saw something like hope in his eyes. They were still playing a part for the world, but this was real. The fallout came fast. Kane called Lucas, furious, threatening retaliation. Ethan listened on speaker, his blood boiling as Kane's voice dripped with venom. But Lucas stayed calm, negotiating a final payment to end it. Ethan wired the money from an untraceable account, his heart pounding as Lucas set up a meeting to deliver it. "I'm coming with you," Ethan said, grabbing his jacket. "No way," Lucas snapped. "It's too dangerous." "I'm not letting you go alone," Ethan said, his voice fierce. "You said we're in this together. Prove it." Lucas stared at him, then nodded, a reluctant respect in his eyes. "Fine, but you stay behind me." The meeting was set for a warehouse in an industrial part of L.A., the kind of place where deals went bad and bodies disappeared. Ethan's stomach churned as they pulled up, the night air thick with tension. Lucas was all business, his military training kicking in. But Ethan saw the fear in his eyes, the same fear he felt. Inside, Kane was waiting, flanked by 2 goons. His scar gleamed under the fluorescent lights, his smile cold. "You brought your pretty boy," he sneered, eyeing Ethan. "Big mistake." Lucas stepped forward, envelope in hand. "Here's your money. We're done." Kane took it, flipping through the bills, then tossed it to one of his men. "You think this ends it? You embarrassed me. Read. That's gonna cost you." Ethan's heart raced, but he stepped up beside Lucas, his voice steady. "The whole world's watching you now. Kane, you touch him, you're done." Kane laughed. But there was a flicker of doubt in his eyes. The articles had done their job, planting seeds of fear. After a tense standoff, Cain backed off, waving them out. "Get out of my sight. But don't think this is over." As they drove away, Ethan's hands shook, adrenaline coursing through him. Lucas reached over, his hand covering Ethan's. "You okay?" Ethan nodded, his throat tight. "You?" Lucas's smile was small, but real. "Yeah, thanks to you." The warehouse faded in the rearview mirror, but the tension didn't. Ethan's pulse still raced, his mind replaying Cain's cold smile, the weight of Lucas's hand on his. They drove in silence, the city lights blurring past, until Lucas pulled over on a quiet street, cutting the engine. He turned to Ethan, his eyes searching, intense. "You didn't have to do that," Lucas said, his voice rough. "Put yourself in the line of fire." Ethan met his gaze, unflinching. "Yeah, I did. You're not the only one who gets to take risks." Lucas's jaw tightened, but there was something new in his expression. Gratitude. Maybe. Or something deeper. He leaned across the console, kissing Ethan hard, like he was claiming something he'd been afraid to want. Ethan kissed him back, his hands tangling in Lucas's hair, the world narrowing to the heat of their breath, the thud of their hearts. When they pulled apart, Lucas's voice was low, almost reverent. "Your trouble, Caldwell." Ethan grinned, breathless. "You love it." Lucas didn't deny it, and that was enough to make Ethan's chest ache with hope. They drove home, the air between them lighter. But the danger wasn't over. Cain's parting words echoed in Ethan's mind. "Don't think this is over." They'd bought time, but not freedom. The next few weeks were a delicate balance. Publicly, they were stronger than ever, their chemistry undeniable at premieres and interviews. The tabloids ate it up, calling them Hollywood's power couple, oblivious to the truth. Privately, though, they were navigating something real, something fragile. Lucas opened up more, sharing stories of his childhood, his fears, his dreams. Ethan listened, soaking in every detail, falling harder with every word. One night, they were on the balcony, the city humming below. Lucas was quieter than usual, his fingers tapping a nervous rhythm on his beer bottle. "What happens when this ends?" he asked, echoing his question from weeks ago. But this time, his voice held a different weight. Ethan's heart stuttered. He wanted to say, "It doesn't have to end," but fear stopped him. Instead, he reached for Lucas's hand, lacing their fingers together. "We'll figure it out," he said, hoping it was enough. Lucas squeezed his hand, but his eyes were distant, like he was bracing for a blow. Ethan hated it, the way Lucas still held back, the way the deal loomed over them like a guillotine. He wanted to tear it down, to build something real, but he didn't know how. The next day, trouble found them again. Ethan's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, a photo of him and Lucas leaving the warehouse. With a single line, "You can't hide." His blood ran cold. Cain wasn't done, and now he was watching. Ethan showed Lucas the text, expecting anger. But Lucas's face was calm, resolute. "We need to end this," he said. "For good." They went to Ethan's father. Victor Caldwell's office was a fortress of glass and steel, his presence as imposing as ever. Ethan laid it all out. Cain, the threats, the warehouse. Victor's eyes narrowed, his mind already calculating. "You're lucky you didn't get yourself killed," he said, his tone cutting. "I'll handle Cain." "No," Lucas interjected, his voice firm. "This is my mess. I'll deal with it." Victor's lips curled, a rare hint of respect in his eyes. You've got guts. Read. But you're out of your depth. I have people who can make Cain disappear legally. Of course. Ethan tensed. He didn't trust his father's methods. But they had no other options. Victor made a call. And within hours, Cain was served with a restraining order. His operations under investigation by the feds. Ethan didn't ask how Victor pulled it off. He didn't want to know. With Cain neutralized, the weight on Lucas's shoulders seemed to lift. But not entirely. He was still guarded. Still carrying something Ethan couldn't reach. One night, as they lay in bed not sleeping together. Not yet, but close enough to feel each other's warmth, Ethan asked, "What's holding you back?" Lucas was silent for a long time, his breathing steady in the dark. "The last time I let someone in, they broke me," he said finally. "I don't know if I can do it again." Ethan's heart ached, but he reached for Lucas's hand, holding it tight. "I'm not them," he whispered. "I'm here." Lucas didn't respond, but he didn't pull away either. It was a start. Their first anniversary was approaching, the end of the deal looming. Ethan dreaded it. The thought of losing Lucas unbearable. He threw himself into planning a public celebration. A grand party to mark their year of love. But it was a distraction. A way to avoid the truth. Lucas went along with it. But Ethan could see the strain in his eyes. The same fear mirrored in his own heart. The night of the party. The penthouse was transformed string lights. Live music. A crowd of L.A.'s elite. Ethan and Lucas played their parts. Smiling. Dancing. Their hands never far from each other. But halfway through, Lucas pulled Ethan aside, his expression serious. "I need to tell you something," he said, leading Ethan to the balcony, away from the noise. "I didn't sign up for this to happen." But, he paused, his eyes searching Ethan's. "I'm in love with you." Ethan's breath caught, his world tilting. He'd known it, felt it, but hearing it was different, like a key turning in a lock. "Lucas," he started, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he kissed him, pouring everything into Ivory fear, every hope, every moment they'd shared. When they pulled apart, Ethan was trembling, his voice barely steady. "I love you too." Lucas's smile was small, but it was everything. They stood there, the city glittering below, the weight of the deal fading into the background. For the first time, Ethan believed they could rewrite the script, build something real. The confession on the balcony changed the air between them, like a storm breaking to reveal clear skies. Ethan felt it in every glance. Every touch. Lucas was no longer holding back. They moved through the party with a new ease. Their smiles genuine. Their hands intertwined, not just for show, but because they wanted it. The guests noticed, whispering about the glow of the couple. Oblivious to the truth, this wasn't a performance anymore. But the deal still hung over them, a shadow they couldn't ignore. Their contract stipulated a divorce after 1 year. A clean break to satisfy Victor Caldwell and free Lucas from his debt. Ethan couldn't stomach the thought. He loved Lucas. And Lucas loved him. But love wasn't part of the agreement. Could they rewrite the terms? Or was this just a beautiful, temporary illusion? The morning after the party, Ethan woke to find Lucas already up, making coffee. The sight of him barefoot, hair mussed, wearing an old army t-shirt made Ethan's chest ache. He wanted this. Every morning. For the rest of his life. "We need to talk about the contract," Ethan said, sitting at the counter. Lucas's hand stilled on the coffee pot, but he didn't turn. "I know." Ethan took a deep breath. "I don't want the divorce. I want you. For real." Lucas turned then, his eyes soft but guarded. "Ethan, this was always temporary. Your father, The more they expect an endgame. Screw them, Ethan said, his voice fierce. This isn't about them anymore. It's about us. Lucas crossed his arms, leaning against the counter. You think it's that simple? Your world doesn't bend, Ethan. It breaks people like me. Then we fight for it, Ethan said, standing, closing the distance between them. I'm not losing you, Lucas. Not now. Not ever. Lucas's resolve wavered, his eyes searching Ethan's face. You're stubborn as hell, he muttered, but there was a smile in his voice. Learn from the best, Ethan shot back, grinning. He reached for Lucas's hand, pulling him close. Stay with me. We'll figure it out. Lucas didn't answer, but he kissed Ethan, slow and deep. And that was answer enough for now. The next challenge came from Victor. He summoned them to his office, his expression unreadable as he slid a folder across his desk. The board's impressed, he said. You've stabilized the company. Time to wrap this up. Ethan's stomach dropped. Wrap it up. The divorce, Victor said, his tone clipped. It's been a year. You've played your parts. Now you walk away. Lucas's face was stone, but Ethan saw the tension in his jaw. And if we don't? Ethan asked, his voice steady despite the panic rising in his chest. Victor's eyes narrowed. You think you can defy me? This was a transaction. Ethan, don't make it personal. It's already personal, Ethan snapped, standing. I love him. That's not part of your script. But it's real. Victor's laugh was cold, cutting. Love. You're a child. Ethan. You don't get to rewrite the rules because you caught feelings. Lucas spoke then, his voice calm but unyielding. With all due respect, sir, this isn't just about Ethan. I'm not walking away. Victor's gaze shifted to Lucas, assessing. You're bolder than I thought. Read. But you're out of your league. Then let us prove you wrong, Ethan said, his hand finding Lucas's under the table. We're not ending this. Victor leaned back, his fingers steepled. You want to play this game? Fine. But don't expect my support. You're on your own. They left the office, the weight of Victor's words heavy but not crushing. Ethan felt a strange relief chosen Lucas. And Lucas had chosen him. They were in uncharted territory. But they were together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of defiance. Ethan and Lucas leaned into their relationship, publicly and privately. They attended events as a united front. Their love no longer a secret. The tabloids went wild, some calling it a fairy tale, others a scandal. Ethan didn't care. For the first time, he was living for himself. Not his father. Not the cameras. But Victor wasn't done. He froze Ethan's trust fund, a warning shot to bring him in line. Ethan felt the sting, but it only strengthened his resolve. He and Lucas moved out of the penthouse, renting a modest apartment in Silver Lake. It was small, cluttered, nothing like the luxury Ethan was used to. But it felt like home because Lucas was there. One night, as they unpacked boxes, Lucas pulled Ethan into a hug, his voice muffled against Ethan's shoulder. You gave up a lot for this. For me. Ethan pulled back, meeting his eyes. I gained more. You're worth it. Lucas's smile was soft, unguarded, and Ethan knew he'd made the right choice. They were building something real, piece by piece. And no one, not Victor, not Cain, not the world could take that away. But the world wasn't done testing them. A week later, Ethan got a call from his investigator. Cain was out of jail. His charges dropped on a technicality. He was back in L.A. And he was looking for Lucas. The news about Cain hit like a punch to the gut. Ethan sat on the edge of their new couch, the apartment's bare walls closing in as Lucas paced. Phone pressed to his ear. He was talking to his cousin Tommy, his voice low and urgent, trying to piece together Kane's next move. Ethan watched, his heart pounding, fear and determination warring inside him. They'd fought too hard for this each other. Their life toga thirdo let Kane tear it apart. "We need to go to the police," Ethan said when Lucas hung up. "Get ahead of this." Lucas shook his head, his jaw tight. "Kane's got people on his payroll. Cops won't help. We handle this ourselves." Ethan stood, grabbing Lucas's arm. "No, we're not doing this alone. Not again." Lucas's eyes softened, but the fear was still there, a shadow Ethan couldn't erase. "I don't want you hurt," Lucas said, his voice breaking. "If he comes for me, let him. But not you." Ethan's throat tightened. He pulled Lucas close, their foreheads touching. "We're a team. Remember, no one's taking you from me." They spent the day strategizing, reaching out to allies Ethan's investigator, a few loyal friends from the industry, even a journalist who'd been digging into Kane's operations. The plan was simple but risky. Lure Kane into a public confrontation, record it, and use the evidence to bury him for good. Ethan hated the danger, but Lucas was right. Kane wouldn't stop until they forced him to. The setup was a fake meeting, arranged through Tommy, at a crowded downtown bar. Ethan and Lucas arrived early, wired with hidden mics, their nerves on edge. The bar was loud, packed with oblivious patrons, the perfect stage for their plan. Ethan's hand brushed Lucas's under the table, a silent reassurance. "We got this," he whispered. Lucas nodded, his eyes scanning the room. "Stay sharp." Kane walked in at midnight, his scar stark under the neon lights. He was alone, his confidence unnerving. Ethan's stomach churned, but he kept his expression neutral, playing the part of the unbothered heir. Lucas stood, meeting Kane's gaze head-on. "You wanted to talk. Here I am." Kane's smile was cold, predatory. "You think you're clever. Read those articles. The feds you and your boyfriend made a mess." Ethan leaned forward, his voice steady. "You're the one who's done. Kane, walk away, or we'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you are." Kane laughed, low and menacing. "You think a pretty boy like you scares me? I'll ruin you both." Before Ethan could respond, Lucas leaned in, his voice a quiet threat. "Try it. You're on camera right now." Kane's eyes flickered, a crack in his bravado. He glanced around, spotting the journalist at the bar, her phone discreetly aimed their way. The mics had caught every word, every threat. Kane's face twisted, but he knew he was cornered. "This isn't over," he spat, before storming out. Ethan exhaled, his hands shaking. Lucas reached for him, their fingers intertwining. "You okay?" Lucas asked, his voice soft. "Yeah," Ethan said, managing a smile. "You?" Lucas's grin was small but real. "Better now." The footage went viral within hours, Kane's threats plastered across every news outlet. By morning, he was arrested, his empire crumbling under the weight of public outrage. Ethan and Lucas watched the news from their apartment, curled up on the couch, the tension finally easing. With Kane gone, the last barrier between them fell. They were free not just from danger, but from the deal that had defined them. Ethan knew what he wanted, what he'd always wanted. He turned to Lucas, his heart full. "Marry me again," he said, the words spilling out. "For real this time." Lucas's eyes widened, then softened, a laugh breaking free. "You're insane. Hollywood." Is that a yes? Ethan asked, grinning, his heart in his throat. Lucas pulled him close, kissing him deeply. Yeah, he whispered against Ethan's lips. It's a yes. Their second wedding was small, just them and a few close friends. On a quiet beach at sunrise. No cameras, no scripts, just love raw, real, and theirs. Ethan said his vows with tears in his eyes, promising to fight for Lucas every day. Lucas's vows were steady, a soldier's promise, but his voice cracked when he said, "You're my home." As they kissed, the waves crashing behind them, Ethan felt whole for the first time. The Hollywood heir and the military trainer had started with a deal, but they'd found something worth more than money or fame. They'd found each other. Years later, they'd tell their story, not the tabloid version, but the truth. How a fake marriage became real. How two broken men healed each other. How love was the only deal that mattered. And every time Ethan looked at Lucas, he knew he'd been the first to fall. But they'd landed together.